Hi and welcome to We Need to Talk. I don't know about you, but sometimes there's stuff we really do need to talk about. Whenever Helen, my wife, says to me, hey, Ens, we need to talk, I kind of bristle because I know the discussion we're going to have is going to be a little bit confronting and maybe we need to sit down and wrestle something out. And that's the intention of this series. So I hope you subscribe to this on YouTube and that you pass it on to your friends, because what I'm going to be doing is talking about some of the key issues that we're dealing with today. Everything from maybe some of the worldviews that are out there, maybe some things that people struggle with like depression, anxiety, fear. We'll talk about a whole lot of topics, but we do need to talk. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us on the journey. Now today, we're going to talk about our worldview and how it's formed and how, you know, with some adjustment, we can change our worldview and become better people. And then for others, defining what your worldview is will define the decisions that you make and the behavior that you have. I found as I was teaching at a Bible college, which of the church that I'm part of, that this little diagram came up, which was kind of a nothing diagram when I first looked at it. I thought, oh yeah, that's interesting. But then as I delved in deeper, I realized that this diagram was just really a key life diagram that explains, you know, how people arrive at their particular viewpoints and their particular behavior. So it goes something like this. Your experiences determine your worldview, and your worldview determines your decisions, and your decisions determine your behavior. Have you got that? It's all there for you to see just along the bottom here, so I hope you can make a note of that. Now, our experiences, the things that we've had in life from our childhood, good and bad, shape our worldview. Now, our worldview becomes the point at which we have an internal dialogue in our head, and the way we think about things, whether it be virtue or morals or the way we're going to live our lives, our goals, our dreams, how we cope with certain circumstances, whether we're anxious or whatever. That's our worldview, and our worldview is shapeable. It's actually not fixed in stone. It's shapeable by our experiences. Now, once we have a worldview, that determines how we behave. Now, I know personality comes into it, and the way you're wired up might come into how you behave, whether good or bad, whether you're a bossy person or a control freak, or whether you just give in and you become annihilated by the culture around you. So your decisions then determine your behavior. And your behavior, you know, it's going to determine whether you're happy in life or feeling that you're living out your purpose or not. So let's look at the first one, the experiences. Now, I grew up in an Italian family, so my experiences were very close family. My grandmother and grandfather lived with us so that they could look after us while my mum and dad worked. And that's another key point to my upbringing, that I watched my dad work really, really hard in a fruit shop. He would be up at 3 a.m, go to the Vic Market, get his veggies, set up the shop, come home at 6 o'clock, we'd watch the news, he'd fall asleep on the couch, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That was Dad. Mum was the nurturing kind. She looked after us, she loved us, she smothered us, she made sure we ate. Always, the question was always, mangiaste figlio? And that means, did you eat, son? Or did you eat, daughter? And that was how we grew up. So those experiences had, and you know, when you're young, they have a massive impact. But then you see the values. Dad was a hard worker. Dad had his own business, so he tended to vote, with the party that supported, business. And that's where I grew up. I grew up in that. So a lot of my political ideas probably come from that. I want to be a hard worker. I want to provide for my family. That's my worldview from my experiences. But they also, good and bad you get from your parents, they also were very fearful. They didn't let us really go anywhere because, let's face it, something could happen. So I wasn't allowed to go on excursions. We had to kind of forge signatures, which we have to tell our parents about. But we had to do all that because at the end of the day, they were fearful that what if the bus crashed? You can't go there. What if this happens? Or what if that happens? We can't go on holidays. We can't get on an aeroplane. What if it crashes? So a lot of fear was built in that my worldview could have been shaped by that, but I had to overcome that and develop a new worldview. Now, we grew up in a church, and so every Sunday we're at church, we're at Sunday school learning. I became a Christian when I was 12 years old. I made a decision that I wanted to follow Jesus Christ. At age 17, I felt a call to ministry to become a pastor, and I've been one ever since. So my experiences made my worldview now a Christian worldview. And so with that came a desire to live a good life, a holy life, a kind life, an empowered life. And you don't always get it right on the journey, but that's my worldview. And so when I look at the politics, when I read my newspaper, I don't look at it from what political party's going on. I look at it from the Christian worldview. How does this align with my Christian belief? And then what can I say? What can I do to speak up or speak out against the injustices of people in government and so on? So I don't stay silent on those topics. I'm very diplomatic. That's just my nature. But my worldview is strong. And I believe that I have principles. I believe, and I hope you do too, I believe that I have principles, I have convictions, I stand my ground on things that I believe that the Bible speaks about. And so therefore, your worldview then determines your decisions. So my decisions are based on the Word of God. My decisions are to live a virtuous life, to live a kind life, to live a generous life. My decisions impact my diary, my decisions impact my wallet, my decisions impact my planning, they impact where I want to go in the world. I have a love for the third world country, and so I've made dozens of trips to Africa, the Philippines, which I love very much, India, Thailand, all over the world to take my worldview that I believe is a Christian worldview and impact people that are disadvantaged or need to hear this message in order to be saved or to be bettered in their life. So my behavior matches that. So that's the Christian worldview. And I'm really sad today that unfortunately a lot of people go for slogans. They go for what's popular on social media. They're very easily impacted in their worldview, therefore their decisions, therefore their behavior, just by what's on the internet. And they don't stop and think, hang on, how does this align with my worldviews? Is it true? Now, the world has a different way of looking at things. It's trying to tell us that there's no absolute views, and the Bible is an absolute Bible. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet. You know, it's very, very, its morals are very black and white, and they want to make things either grey or opposite to the Bible worldview. Well, my worldview, I've got to look at what's happening in the world and then align my worldview to the biblical worldview, and then speak up against anything that's contrary to that. In fact, the Bible tells us that we ought to expose the fruitless deeds of darkness that are out there that are trying to ruin our world. God gave us a manual, a book to live by, and we need to live by it. So there's all that. Your experiences determine your worldviews. They determine your decision making. They determine your behavior. So let's have a look at that through a few filters. First of all, let's say your experiences were that things were always difficult, always hard, always dark, always gloomy. Let's say you grew up in circumstances that were not particularly conducive to happiness, that maybe there were some challenges, and a lot of people do have that. And we all have those experiences. But those experiences may base your worldview, that the world isn't a happy place, that it's a depressing place, that the clouds, even though the sun's out, the grey clouds are still there, and they're sitting above you. And so your worldview is that the world is not a great place, and I have to work super hard to find anything positive out of that. So then your decision making based on that is that nothing out there can make me happy. You might want to enhance your happiness and to get out of depression by saying my decisions is to take drugs or to drink a lot or to just party my sadness away. And so your behavior becomes out of control, or perhaps you long for those times where you get to a pub with your mates and you just drink the day away so you can forget. Well, anything that goes along that line is eventually going to lead you to behavior that's going to be destructive for you. It's going to affect your health. It's going to affect your relationships. It's going to affect your mental health, because you'll never be able to get enough out of that. Let's say you grew up in the opposite of that, optimistic experiences. You went for something, you achieved. You went for something else, you achieved. You started your own business. You were entrepreneurial. Your experiences were great. You had your challenges, but you overcame them. You felt like David and Goliath experiences. And so that formed your worldview that even in the failure, I can get up from this. I can actually get up and stand up and keep on walking. You know, you might try and knock me down, but I'm going to keep going. So your decision making is, yeah, this might offset me a little bit and knock me over, but my behavior is going to be positive. I'm going to focus on what's good. I don't need anything else to prop me up. And that's the differences in using your experiences for better behavior against your experiences ruling you. If you take the negative side of that, eventually leads you to depression. Your body starts developing all of the things that cause more depression, you know, in your brain and other parts of your body. So it has a direct effect. Your experiences, your worldview has a direct effect on your health. It's a known thing. But it also is known that you can actually change your whole happiness and behavior just by changing your experience, because what you input in that's good will have a good result. The Bible says it like this. It says, the good man brings out good things out of the good that they have stored in their heart, and the evil man draws out evil things from the evil that's stored up in their heart. So it all comes back to the heart, your worldview, your inner conversation with yourself. So if you're a depressed person and you keep storing in depressive thoughts from your experiences that align, that keep telling you it's hard, it's terrible, it's dark, it's, you know, why is it unfair? If you keep taking those experiences and building them into your worldview, eventually you're going to bring out bad behavior. You're going to bring out depressed behavior. You're going to destroy your body, your health, etc., etc. On the other hand, if you bring in good things, if you actually take the good and just say, you know what, I'm going to learn from that person, and this is a great book to read, and this is a great insight from the Bible or from history, and I'm going to study a biography of someone that overcame. You build that into your worldview, it affects your decision making, and then it affects your behavior. The good brings out good, the evil things, the negative things bring out a negative impact. That's really important. Jesus actually said, what the heart is full of, your worldview, the mouth speaks, so your decision making, what comes out of your mouth, what comes out, even out of your inner conversation, that brings out good. And the negative things, you know, that's going to come out as well. So it's important to have those. Let's look at another couple of examples. If you take the idea of anxiety, which is huge today. I talked about depression, but anxiety, that fear of and foreboding that things are going to go wrong, and therefore your body starts getting into this hard breathing, and you start getting scared about what you're about to do, and suddenly this is overwhelming and I can't breathe and I'm anxious, I'm having a panic attack, and so your decision is, I need to survive, and help me, I'm sick, something's wrong, and then your behavior, you know, overflows. Whereas if you know that anxiety is an issue, you need to build into your life the anti-anxiety things. You need to bring in good thoughts. You need to bring in, the best case scenarios, not the worst. And so in your internal thinking, your experiences, get to experiences that maybe stretch you a little bit, so that you can build a worldview that says, you know, it's not that bad. It's not going to be that bad. I'll survive this. I'll survive that. So I'll survive this. And that'll help you with your decision making, not to be fearful, and your behavior not to be over the top and needing medical attention. Now, I know I'm simplifying things, and I hope that's not over simplistic to people that might think, you know, you're just simplifying it. It's a lot more complicated. It might be. But I think that these 4 things are really important when it comes to anxiety. Build in good experiences that shape your worldview, that you're going to be okay, especially if you're a Christian. With God's help, you're going to be okay. And then make decisions not based out of fear of man, fear of the future, fear of what might happen, Make them based on faith. Make them based on, I can get through this. And then your behavior will change. People will say, you know what? You got through that. Good. You go, boy. You go, girl. Well done. Let's have a look at another one. What about fear? Fear's big. In fact, fear is a currency that politicians are using around the world for this virus. I don't believe it's anywhere near as bad as what they're telling us, because the numbers are way overinflated. I believe it is a serious illness. I'm not saying it's not, but I do believe that it is being used to create fear across the world, because I do believe that there's, something going on. I don't know what it is, but there's something going on that's trying to push us towards a different system of government, finances, and so on. And this became an opportune moment to do that, where you can lock up the world and have them change and switch from self-reliance, from self-responsibility to a dependence on the government. Fear is a currency that's being used today. And fear could be something that you struggle with because you've had a few experiences where you became very scared. Maybe you became very scared of dogs because you had an experience with a dog barking at you. My sister, that's her classically. And she has a dog now. Good on you, sis. So fear. Fear is a big one. And the government is peddling fear. If we don't do this, it's going to get so much worse. Stay in your homes. It's fear, right? Whereas, you know what? I was taught not to live with fear. In fact, the Bible tells us that if you're a Christian, God didn't give you a spirit of fear, but of love and of power and of a sound mind. In other words, your worldview is love, power, that you've got power to overcome this, and of a sound mind, not a stupid mind going crazy. But you know what? We're all locked up in our cages here in Victoria, and we'll have to get through this. But fear is you've got a lot of experiences that make you fearful of stuff. If that shapes your worldview, your decisions are going to be risk averse, that you're going to not want to take risks in starting a business, in asking a girl out if you're single and you want to go on a date. You're going to be scared about everything. And then your behavior is going to show that, and people are going to see it, that you're a fearful person. But if you're a fearful person and you say, you know what, I'm going to do some experiences that are going to change my worldview about that, and I'm going to therefore make different decisions, and I'm going to be an overcomer. My behavior is going to be an overcoming behavior. Well, I want to share a little story about a girl from the Philippines called Cecile. She's a beautiful girl. Been to the Philippines 14 times and met Cecile on my first or second visit there, young person in a church. She had a tremendous fear of flying. I mean, I'm talking about serious fear of flying. And she reached out to me. She says, you fly so much. How do you do it? I am a mental case before I go flying, she said. And I said, look, the way I see it is when you're up there, you have a perspective of what God sees, and it's incredible and it's beautiful. So instead of looking out the window and imagining worst case scenario, which will never happen, why don't you look out the window and imagine best case scenario? Like, this is gorgeous, this is beautiful, look at this sunrise, look at the colors, look at the earth, look how wonderful, expansive it is. And you know what, over time she did that. And the interesting thing is now she misses flying. This is only in a year or so, from going to absolute fear and scared of going to the airport to I now miss being in the air. All that is a change of experience, which changes your worldview, which changes your decision making, which changes your behavior. So how do we fix all this up? I mean, I could give you a lot of other ideas along this road. It might be about money, bad experiences with money, develop a stingy worldview maybe, therefore your decisions is to be stingy, not to be generous, therefore your behavior follows. How do we fix those kind of things? Glad you asked me. I think it comes back to, again, another biblical principle, sowing and reaping. You got that? Sowing and reaping. What you sow, you will reap. Simple. If you sow tomatoes, you get tomatoes. If you sow apples, you get apples. Easy. So the more you sow, if you sow good into your life, if you sow patience into your life, if you sow more good experiences, perhaps things that are out of your comfort zone but good for you, you're going to reap behavior that is going to be better for you. And the more you do that, the more the behavior changes. So hope that helps. It's been great to be with you. And I'll continue to pray for you that are watching. We've had great response on previous videos. And so share it, put it on Facebook, share it with your friends, and see if this can't be helpful to someone else. It's been great to talk with you, and join us next time for the next episode of We Need to Talk.